A Neanderthal had painkiller chemicals stuck in his teeth. Humans were cooking fish almost 800,000 years ago. And 23,000 years before farming, somebody was already grinding wild grain into something suspiciously close to bread. So no, ancient human diets were not one giant slab of meat. They were much weirder than that. Number 10. The bone locker. At Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania, around 1.8 to 2 million years ago, early humans were not just scraping meat off carcasses. They were smashing bones open for marrow. Archaeologists found animal bones with both cut marks and percussion marks. That means early Homo species were slicing flesh away and then cracking the bones apart with stone to get at the fat-rich centre. This matters because marrow is not just food, it is premium food. Fat, calories, survival all hidden inside a hard shell most predators could not fully exploit. So no, early humans were not always heroic hunters charging dramatically at mammoths in the sunrise. Sometimes they were waiting until something bigger had finished eating, then arriving with rocks and audacity. The first great human diet upgrade may have been theft. Very efficient theft. Number 9. The first fish fry. At Gesher Benot Ya'aqov in Israel, dating to around 780,000 years ago, researchers found evidence that early humans may have been cooking fish in a controlled way, not burning it by accident, cooking it. A 2022 study looked at the microscopic structure of fish teeth from the site and found heating patterns that suggest these fish were exposed to temperatures consistent with cooking, not random fire damage, which means some very early humans had already figured out two important things. Fish are good. Cooked fish are better. That is huge because it pushes controlled cooking of food way back and shows early humans were not just throwing random things at flames and hoping for the best. They were selecting, preparing, and transforming food. The first seafood restaurant was apparently a campfire. Number 8. The seafood cheat code. At Pinnacle Point in South Africa, around 164,000 years ago, humans were collecting shellfish, and that may have helped save them. Curtis Moran and his team argued that coastal resources like shellfish gave early humans a reliable food source during periods of climate stress, which makes perfect sense once you think about it. Shellfish do not run away. They do not require a spear. They sit there waiting for low tide and bad decisions. That is not just food. That is a prehistoric cheat code. If inland hunting got difficult, the coast was still handing out protein in neat little shells. The sea was not scenery. It was backup calories. It was one of the first places where humans figured out that nature sometimes stocks shelves if you show up at the right time. The shoreline was basically a grocery store with worse branding. Number 7. Bread before farming. At Ohalo II in Israel around 23,000 years ago, long before wheat fields and farming villages took over the world, humans were already grinding wild cereals and processing starchy plants in surprisingly sophisticated ways. Grinding stones, wild barley, plant remains, real preparation. That should wreck a lot of lazy assumptions. Because people love telling the story like this. First came farming, then came bread, then civilization. Ohalo says not so fast. Humans were messing with grains and starches thousands of years before farming became a proper life plan. So no, the ancient diet was not just hunt meat, chew root, move on. These people were processing plants because processing plants gets you more calories, better texture, and food that does not fight back. Bread culture did not begin with agriculture. It was flirting with it long before. Number 6. The Neanderthal recipe. At Shanidar Cave in Iraq, evidence suggests Neanderthals were doing more with plants than just chewing whatever looked edible and hoping history would be kind. Recent analysis of charred food remains from a related Middle Paleolithic context suggests they were processing multiple plant ingredients together, grinding, soaking, maybe roasting combinations of pulses and grains into food that sounds a lot more like a recipe than random foraging. That matters because people still imagine Neanderthals as all meat, no method, wrong. They may have had actual food preferences, they may have known how to reduce bitterness, they may have combined ingredients because some mixtures just tasted better than others, which is one of the most human things imaginable. Even in prehistory, somebody was already saying, no, wait, this tastes better if you cook it like this. The first recipe was probably an argument. Number 5, the plaque pharmacy. At El Sidron in Spain, roughly 49,000 years ago, researchers looked at Neanderthal dental calculus hardened plaque and found something incredible. One individual had traces of poplar, which contained salicylic acid-like compounds, and penicillium mold DNA. That sounds weird until you realize what it might mean. This Neanderthal may have been sick and self-medicating. Pain relief in the teeth, 49,000 years ago. That is not guaranteed proof of intentional medicine in the modern clean sense, but it is close enough to be extremely uncomfortable for anyone still clinging to the primitive brute version of Neanderthals. A being with a tooth infection and a parasite load may have been reaching for bitter medicinal plants and mold-producing bark before medicine had a name. The plaque was not just dirty, it was a pharmacy record. Number 4, the Ice Age Steakhouse. Stable isotope studies across multiple Neanderthal sites in Europe have shown that some Neanderthal groups were eating at a very high trophic level in plain English, a lot of meat, like top predator levels of meat. That does not mean every Neanderthal everywhere, at all times, was living on mammoth steaks and rage. But in some cold environments, large animal meat was clearly doing most of the work. Reindeer, horse, bison, mammoth, in some cases serious animals, serious calories. And this is where the stereotype gets partly rescued. Because yes, some ancient humans really were heavy meat eaters, just not all of them. Which is the annoying truth the internet hates. Ancient diets were regional. A cold European steppe menu is not the same thing as a coastal South African menu or a Levantine grain and gazelle menu. Ancient humans ate this is almost always too simple. Prehistory did not have one kitchen, it had weather. Number 3, the insecticide dish. Modern people act like eating insects is a survival stunt. Ancient humans would have called that attitude unserious. Direct evidence is patchier here, but preserved human waste, yes, fossilized poop. We will get there properly in a second, and ethnographic comparison tell us that insects were absolutely on the menu. Grubs, termites, larvae, ants, whatever, was protein-rich and easy to gather. And really, why wouldn't they be? They're everywhere. They're nutritious. They do not require advanced weapons. They're tiny calorie packets that failed to evolve a legal defense. The idea that insects are disgusting is mostly cultural. To an ancient human, they were a snack that did not run very fast. Number 2, the poop archive. If you really want to know what ancient humans ate, one of the best places to look is their poop. This is not glamorous, but archaeology lost its dignity a long time ago and is stronger for it. At sites like Hines Cave in Texas, preserved human feces coprolites have revealed actual meals from ancient people. Seeds, plant fibers, animal remains, and insect fragments. Not theories, not broad trends, actual lunch. That matters because bones tell you patterns over time. Poop tells you Tuesday, and Tuesday was mixed. Plants, animals, insects, whatever was available. Which again kills the fantasy that ancient humans lived on one pure ancestral menu handed down from the nutritional heavens. They were improvisers, opportunists, generalists with digestive ambition. The poop archive does not care about diet branding, it cares what you actually swallowed. Number 1, there was no paleo diet. This is the biggest discovery of all. There was no single ancient human diet. Not one, not a universal caveman menu, not one perfect ancestral plate, not all meat, not all plants, not one ratio, not one rule. Ancient human diets changed by region, climate, season, technology, species, and luck. Some groups leaned hard on meat. Some leaned on shellfish. Some processed grains and roots. Some ate insects. Some mixed all of the above. Some did whatever the landscape allowed and their stomachs could handle. The real ancient diet was flexibility. That is why humans made it. Not because we found one perfect food and built our species around it, because we would eat nearly anything, process it, cook it, grind it, crack it open, and then try again tomorrow somewhere else if the landscape changed. That is not a diet plan. That is survival intelligence. Be honest, which one changed the picture most for you? Neanderthal medicine, 780,000-year-old cooked fish, bred before farming, or the part where archaeology keeps solving history with ancient plaque and poop?